I'll tell you guys a funny story because she just said my name. I went to Starbucks. I went through the drive-through, and obviously, they always greet you and stuff like that. Some Starbucks that you go to, they ask, "Oh, is there any food I can get started for you?" Or they'll just say, like, "What can I get you?" right away. So she asked me if there was any food. I was like, "No food." So then I ordered my drink, and she goes, "Oh, well, some Starbucks, they ask you for your name first, and others, they ask you for your name, like, right before they tell you to pull up." So she asked me for my name. So I was like, "Marcos, Marcos." And she was like, "Polo." So here was my reaction to that. I was just like, "Yup." Dead silent. Dead silent. Dead silent. "Okay, you can move up to the window now." I was like, "All right, cool." She was pretty intimidated by the time I rolled up to the window. She was like, "Hi, Marcos." I was like, "Hi, hello, how are you?" I wanted to answer with "Polo." Look, we made it. Full circle, we came around. All right. You guys got your notes? Fantastic. Half of you will probably not write anything down, but that's okay. Can we be real today? Can we just be real? Like, half of you guys are not going to write anything down in your note papers. You should. Here's why. Because a short pencil is better than a long memory. Okay? So you're welcome for starting off. I mean, if you show me your notes, you might get something for it. I don't know. Let's be realistic. Can you get a new what? You can have Pastor Franklin's car, absolutely. We just give stuff away in here. I heard Joseph's giving away his PlayStation 5 for anybody that wants it. I think Alicia's giving away one of her grandma's recipes for nachos. Yeah. I'm giving my daughters... No, I'm just kidding. I'm not giving my daughters away. Not doing that. I love them. Pastor Anna's looking at me like, "You better not." All right, so if you guys look at the top of your paper, you have today's title. Can anyone tell me what today's title is? Everybody collectively, all together. United Verses. All right. What? What are you talking about? I'm just kidding. All right, so today I got a couple of points that I want to bring up to you guys. Pastor Franklin brought in absolutely timely and powerful word last week. So if you weren't here and you want to hear what it was, make sure you guys, shameless plug, tap into the YouTube or the Spotify. You're welcome, Joseph. I did my job. And you guys can check out that message. But today, what we're going to be talking about, and there's a reason I have you guys in this format right here, because it's going to be more of a discussion-based type of night with some points. So, with that being said, the first verses, or the first verse, and when I mean verse, this is what I mean. You guys know, like, King Kong versus Godzilla. Like, that's what I mean by verse. Like, two things going up head-to-head against each other. That's what we're talking about here. So the first verses that we have for you guys is purpose versus potential. Purpose versus potential. Can anyone tell me what their definition of purpose is? Yes. Hi. No? You don't? Yes. The reason why something was made. Okay. Can anyone tell me what their definition of potential is? Jess. Capability to be able to do something. Nice. Okay. So I want to tell you guys this. Purpose in the Greek is pronounced prothesis. I believe I said that right. And the definition is planned in advance or a setting forth. Okay? Potential in the Greek is dunamis, meaning capacity, ability, or capability. So my man hit it right on the head with what he said. But here's the difference. What I'm trying to get at tonight with you guys is I want to actually get you guys to have internal dialogue about your life. And what I mean about that is that so many times, especially the world that we live in now, you guys have obviously seen what this past week has looked like. There comes a point in time where the people of Israel had to stand up for certain things that were going on, right? And your generation is actually specifically and purposefully positioned in the right spot to do certain things. And here's what I mean by that, is that so many times we find ourselves in a position where people look at us and they tell us, oh, you have so much potential. Like they see you running track, you got so much potential. They see you dancing, you have so much potential. They see you playing an instrument, you have so much potential. They see you write a poem, oh, you have so much potential. You give them an idea, oh, you have so much potential. But the reality is that God never called us to potential. He called us to purpose. So if we're living based off of people's potential, we're only going to get as far as man can carry us. So we have to put ourselves in a position where it's like, okay, am I striving because of my potential, or am I actually striving because of my purpose? Because so many times we can get wrapped up in what people see as our potential that we miss our purpose. So in that sense, with internal dialogue, for you guys, what I want you to start thinking about is, well, in what areas of my life have I gone off of the words of somebody else over my potential? And that's what I focused my time on. Because if you focus your time on potential, how far do you think that's going to take you? Because I had, so we'll put it into perspective. I had, this is just a made up scenario, but I had plenty of shoes, right? I had a closet full of shoes. And I had a friend come over and he was just like, yo, you got so many shoes. These are nice shoes. You could probably sell them. And I was just like, you probably have a good idea. He's like, yeah, there's so much potential in the market right here that you have. I was like, oh, potential, right? But here's my thing is I'm going on based off of his word. So I don't really know how to start a business or anything like that. So I'm just like, what's that one selling website? Let Go or something like that. Like posting shoes up on Let Go. And I'm just like, $250 for these Nikes. And somebody's like, I'll take it for $20. It's like, what are you talking about? He's just like, well, you're trying to let it go, right? It's like, see, if I'm just moving based off of what a man told me about my potential, I'm going to miss it. So I want to give you guys some scriptures to back this up. So for purpose, and the crazy thing is while I was doing this research and I was trying to look up verses in the Bible that really brought this home for these words, is I can find plenty of verses for purpose. I can barely find a single verse with potential. Meaning that God didn't create his sons and his daughters based off potential. He made them based off purpose. So the first verse that I have for you guys, and they're going to place it up differently behind me because I'm reading from a different version, but I'm going to read the version that I have because some of the version that I have actually uses that specific word in it. So I want you guys to catch that. But it will be the same exact verse, just worded differently behind me. So the first one is Ephesians 2:10. And I'm reading this off my phone, off the Passion Translation, and they're using the NLT up there. So in the Passion Translation, which if you haven't heard of the Passion Translation, it's like, for those of you that are emotional, like this will speak to your heart instead of speaking to your mind, which is like everybody in the room. So with that being said, Ephesians 2:10 in the Passion Translation says this. It says, we have become his poetry, a recreated people that will fulfill the destiny he has given each of us. For we are joined to Jesus, the Anointed One, even before we were born. God planned in advance our destiny and the good works we would do to fulfill it. Meaning that he had purpose for what he brought us here for. Okay? And in Romans 8:28 in the Passion Translation, it says this. It says, so we are convinced that every detail of our lives is continuously woven together for good. For we are his lovers who have been called to fulfill his designed purpose. Designed purpose. Potential deals with variables. Purpose doesn't. There is no what ifs in your purpose. There's what ifs in your potential. Like, what if you're a really good track runner? But what if you hurt your ankle? You're going to be running to the couch. And potential. I want to give you guys a verse for potential. In Galatians 6:8, and I'm reading this off of the Passion Translation as well, it says, the harvest you reap reveals the seed that you planted. If you plant the corrupt seeds of a self-life into this natural realm, you can expect a harvest of corruption. If you plant a good seed of spirit life, you will reap beautiful fruits that grow from the everlasting life of the Spirit. Meaning that if this is the only thing that I could find for potential, and the first thing that it says is that if all you're doing is seeking it yourself, like you're just basing your life based off of your potential, at some point it's going to get corrupted. But if you're basing your life based off your purpose, spirit-filled life, it comes out to be something beautiful, right? So that's purpose versus potential. I want to give you guys the next matchup, round 2. And this one is going to mess with some of you guys. I'm going to just be real, because we can be real tonight, right? Okay. The next verses is opinion versus obedience. You hear how many I got in the room? Ooh. Yeah, it's going to mess with y'all. Opinion in the Greek, I couldn't really pronounce the Greek word, so I'm not going to try and butcher it anyways. But it means to think, seem, or appear. Everybody knows that, right? And then the Greek word for obedience, which I was able to find, is hupako. Or better, in the Greek, it's translated as this. It's translated as under to hear. That's what obedience translated to. Opinion versus obedience. Obviously, in the world that we live in, everyone is very vastly opinionated. Like, I got my opinions on everything. Like, there is nothing that no one has an opinion on. No one in this earth can walk around and tell you that they don't have an opinion about something. Everyone's opinionated, right? A lot of people fail to be obedient, though. Because you can just put in a scenario where your parents ask you to do something, and your opinion is that you shouldn't have to do it. But then what does your opinion lead into your obedience, or does it lead into your disobedience? Because if you can't place yourself in the right mindset to be obedient regardless of the opinions that surround you, you're going to be so easily swayed by what the world has to offer. So you guys see what's going on this past whole entire week in Afghanistan and all these different things, and everyone has their opinions. People look at your life choices, your own life choices, the choices that you're trying to make for yourself, because the reality is that you guys are junior high into high school, and your parents are starting to give you a little bit more responsibility and all these different things, and they're just like, we believe that you can make the right choice. Meaning that they have an opinion at the stature that you're at and at the level that you're at, the level of maturity that you're at, that you can handle this, right? It's an opinion. Because no one can pull up a chart to show you how mature you are. Your maturity is based off of your actions. So with that being said, what I'm trying to get at is this, is that if your parents asked you to do something and your opinion is that you don't have to do it, and then that leads you into disobedience, where does that leave you? That leaves you in a position where now you're looking at day-to-day life, because if you can disobey your parents and have an opinion on what your parents tell you to do, just imagine the opinions that you'll have when it comes to your brothers and sisters. Like, they'll come to you and you'll be like, hey man, I did this. And in the back of their mind, they got their own opinion already. Just like, well, you should have not done that. You should have not bought those $250 pair of shoes. Let me just be honest with you. And here's the crazy thing. As I was looking up for a verse for opinion, this is what came up. So this is Proverbs 18:2 in the New Living Translation. It says, fools have no interest in understanding. They only want to air their own opinions. Meaning that a foolish person will be super quick to fall out of disobedience in an instant. So if that's what the Bible says about opinions and how people flaunt their opinions, why does the earth spend so much time wanting to present their opinion? When the reality is that Jesus calls you to obedience. And here's the thing. Potential is someone's opinion. Obedience is a part of his purpose. So if you can't start connecting those two things together and you're just focused on your potential, you're going to have a lot of opinions. But if you put yourself in a position where you're obedient, you're going to start taking the right steps towards your purpose. So the verse that I have for obedience is this. It's in Romans 6, and we're going to read 15 through 17. Well then, since God's grace has set us free from the law, does that mean that we can go on sinning? Of course not. Don't you realize that you've become the slave to whatever you choose to obey? Opinions. You can be a slave to sin, which leads you to death. Or you can choose to obey, obedience, which leads you to righteous living. And righteous, the word righteous means right standing. It means doing the right thing. Thank God, once you were slaves of sin, but now you are wholeheartedly obeying this teaching we have given you. So you see it right there, perfectly put together. You have opinion versus obedience. Because it says, since grace has set us free from law, does that mean that we can go on sinning? Meaning, he posed the question, there's a question mark there, meaning that it's a pause for thought. Meaning that at this point, he's making you think, and now you have the ability, or the enemy has the ability to come in your mind and make you force your own opinion into this situation. But that's not what he's getting at. He's saying, yes, I said this because God says everything with purpose, right? But he's saying, don't focus on my question, because my question is going to lead you to some opinions. Focus on my statement. And my statement is you can be a slave to sin, which leads you to death, or you can choose to obey God, which leads to righteous living. So Again, analyze your life. Where has there been positions where your opinion trumps your obedience? Because if opinion is winning this matchup more than your obedience, you got to check yourself. And that's just being real. Because like I said in the beginning, if he's called you guys to be positioned for the chaos that's being sown all around the world right now, you can't be walking around full of opinions. Because the world's got a bunch of those. The world's got plenty of opinions. But are you going to bring the answers? Are you going to be the ones who can say, well, I'm obedient to what the Bible says. I'm obedient to what Jesus tells me. I'm obedient to what the Father's purpose is for my life. I know I can't get wrapped up with these girls. I can't get wrapped up with these TV shows. I can't get wrapped up in this music. I can't get wrapped up in the way that I look, in the way that I talk, in the way that I speak, in the way that I carry myself. Because the reality is that there's plenty of people walking around this world with a mask on. But God calls his sons and daughters to not walk around with a mask. Because a mask just shows what your opinions are. This is how I want you to look at me like. So when you look at me, you have opinions about me based off of what I look like. God doesn't do that. He's not looking at the outside. He's looking at the inside. The next one that we're going to go into, and it's the last one that I have for you guys, but we'll be in here for a moment, is the next verses, round 3, is motivate verse inspire. Motivate verse inspire. Motivate in the Greek, and I wasn't able to pronounce the word, so I'm not going to try it, means to take something, to make something move. Right? Okay, cool. Inspire, which I'm going to try this, but I'm going to butcher it. Theopenotos is in the Greek. And that means inspired by God, right? So, motivate versus inspire. Now, here's the reality. I understand that the other ones were kind of obvious. They were like, well, yeah, potential versus purpose. Purpose is obviously greater, and like obedience is greater than opinion. Like, what are you trying to get at with, with this one? Motivate and inspire. Don't they mean the same things? No, they don't. And here's why. Motivation, like it said in the definition, is the ability to make something move, right? So I can motivate you to clean up your room. That's as far as that motivation goes. Like, it's not changing your mindset for the next day. It's not teaching you something different. Like, it's not doing any of that. Motivation is just getting you to move. So if you spend half of your time trying to be motivated, you're only going to be motivated until a point. Right? Here's the thing about inspire, though. Since inspire, with the Greek translation and the actual definition, is inspired by God, all things that are inspired are done in spirit and account of God's will. So meaning that if you want to inspire, you're doing it in spirit. So if I motivate you to move, you're going to move as far as I motivated you. But if I inspire you, now you're going to move because in your spirit something is moving, and it's going to propel you a lot further than when I just motivated you. Okay? So I'm going to give you guys a verse for motivate. This is what I found. In Galatians 5:16 through 18, it says, my counsel is this: live freely, animated, and motivated by God's Spirit. Then you won't feed the compulsion of selfishness. For there is a root of sinful self-interest in us that is at odds with the free spirit. Just as the free spirit is incompatible with selfishness, these two ways of life are, and I don't even know what this word is, by God. This word, so that you cannot live at times one way and at times the other way, according to how you feel on any given day. Why don't you choose to be led by the Spirit so escape the erratic compulsion of law-dominated existence? So you see here, it kind of gives the verses itself right there. It's telling you about yourself leaning into motivation on how you run your day-to-day life, but it's telling you instead you should probably choose to do things in spirit, because that's going to take you a lot further than just being obedient to what a man or a woman has to say, right? And then the verse for inspire is this. It says 2 Timothy 3:16 through 17. All scripture is inspired by God and is used to teach us what is true and to make us realize what is wrong in our lives. It corrects us when we are wrong, and it teaches us to do what is right. God uses it to prepare and equip his people to do every good work. So, students, don't get wrapped up in being a motivator. That's what I'm trying to get at right now. Don't be wrapped up in trying to be a motivation to the people around you. Strive to inspire people. And I know it might sound difficult because it's like with all the crazy stuff going on around the world, like who cares about what I have to say? But the reality is that you got to start speaking life over yourself. You got to call yourself an inspiration. So that way, once you say in spirit, now you can start walking it out, because you're not motivating yourself. Because you can motivate yourself to be like, oh, I'm going to pray more. Yeah. And then pray for like 2 days in a row and completely forget about it on the third day. Like, I've been there. But if you become an inspiration to yourself, now you come in one accord with who you are, right? So you inspire yourself, you're obedient to the word, and now you're walking in purpose. So the reality is that when you look at your title, the title of today's message, it says United Verses, and I left it blank. Well, there's a reason I left it blank. It's because you need to figure out what's stopping you from being united with Jesus. What is your verses? Is addiction your verses? Is the bling bling your verses? Like, are you more concerned with the jewelry or the shoes or the cosmetics or all these different things? Is that what's always winning the battle over being inspired, obedient, and filled with purpose? Like, you got to answer these questions for yourself, because God can place anyone he wants up here. It doesn't have to be me. God used a donkey to speak, like I heard Pastor Anna say just this past week while we were in prayer. And I totally forgot about that. I was like, he did use a donkey to speak, didn't he? That's crazy. Like, literally the living depiction of Donkey from Shrek was walking around telling this man what to do. It's a nice boulder. Look at that. But you got to ask yourself these questions, because if you don't ask yourself these questions, you're going to keep looking at this world in chaos and you're going to be like, there's nothing I can do. There's absolutely nothing I can do. For those of you who've had an opportunity for me to pray for you personally, if you've ever come up to me to pray for you and stuff like that, there's one thing that I always pray over any student that comes to me, and that's for God to give you dreams and visions. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because over the past couple of weeks, I've had an immense amount of dreams and visions. And one of the ones one of the dreams that I had was I was, we were following this pathway, right? And in this pathway, it was really easy to navigate. There was multiple people all around us following this path. The scenery was beautiful, but it was like a concrete pathway with gates, like gates over the top. So it was like a pathway, like a little tunnel, but it was full of gates, but you can see outside the gates, right? So we're walking in that, multiple people, and as we continue to walk, the pathway keeps getting smaller, so people have to start filing in, right? You have to start coming a little bit closer and like single file line and stuff like that. So I'm following this, and it gets to a point where the gates open up, there's nothing above you, and there's a step that you have to take. So the pathway ends right here, and the next pathway is like this super tiny piece of concrete that you got to step out to and like tightrope walk the rest of the way, right? But here's the crazy thing is that when I looked across how this and it was like, it just wasn't like a tightrope straight across. It was like tightrope a little bit right here. Then you had a small little piece of concrete that you had to step on just to get to the other piece of tightrope over here. So it was like really complicated maze type of looking thing. And I was like, ooh. Because I see what's under it, and it was like a raging ocean that was under it. And I was just like, ooh. So here's what I did, right? Because in my mind, I'm just like, I ain't passing that. But here's the reality, is that I'm seeing that, and I see people crossing. And I look across, and what I see is basically freedom. Like this beautiful park that people are chilling at, right? And they're just walking freely. Like they get there, they're walking around with Slurpees in their hand and stuff like that. I'm like, that's nice. That's real nice. So, but I'm looking at this pathway to get there in front of me. I'm just like, I don't know. So here's what I do. I look to my left, and I see these stairs. I see some stairs. It's right back under the cage looking thing, but I see that it like wraps around the corner, goes into some trees and stuff like that. I was like, oh, we can get to the same place if we just go this way. So I started taking that path, and as I started taking that path, it started becoming dark, and my vision started to get more narrow and more narrow and more narrow. And now I'm standing in this dark cave, but I can see the people crossing on the outside. So I see them. I see like students like you guys, like taking the steps across, going like this, jumping over. You guys aren't even worried about the stuff that's behind you, and you guys are making it to the other side perfectly fine, right? But there was a group of students that followed me into the cave. So I'm asking the Father, I'm just like, what is this about? And he's just like, so many times my sons and daughters will get to the point where I need them to be, but they never want to take the step. They look for the easy route. And the easy route always leads them into the darkest places. So now I'm in this place, and it's weird, you guys. It's weird. It turned into like this haunted house type of feel. I was just like, Jesus, I don't want to be here, right? He's just like, listen, just watch. I was like, okay, cool. So long story short about the horror house, I come out, and there's now this dude that's like pursuing me. So the enemy is now pursuing me. He's like after me. He's trying to throw some bubbly, sparkling water at me. That's how weird it gets, okay? Listen, God can use anything. If he wants to talk about some tainted water because it's not holy and purified, he's like, it's got some contents to it, and it might look good, but it's made differently. It's not pure water. If that's the way that God wanted to present that, that's the way he presented that, okay? So he's trying to throw this water at me, and I'm just like, no, dude, like, go away. So I'm like running away. This dude, like, I finally get out of this house, and I'm in the park now, and this dude like cracks open his window, and he tries to throw the case of bubbly at me. Just follow me. I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. He throws the case of bubbly at me, and what I do is I'm just like, got it. Okay, here's what I do. So I walk back to his door, and I open the door, and I chuck the bubbly inside. I'm just like, I don't want your bubbly, okay? And force like this. And he gets angry. Like instantly this person turns into a demonic force, like this big, nasty cloud. And you might laugh, but listen, it's intimidating because that's how the enemy is. The enemy will offer or try to force something on you until you finally put yourself in a position where you reject him. And that's when he comes at you even harder. So now I'm in this position where this big dark cloud is like chasing me, and I go straight into ninja mode, you guys. I am not kidding. Straight Naruto running. I'm running up buildings and all these different things. Listen, dreams are amazing. So I'm going through this situation, and I'm trying to get away. But finally, it comes to a perspective where God puts me outside the situation. He's like, look, this isn't meant for you, okay? I'm just trying to show you something. I'm trying to show you that when my sons and my daughters stray away, the enemy will constantly pursue them until he gets what he wants. Because here's what I saw happen. I'm running. God takes me outside of that situation, and now I'm looking at it from a distance, and I see the enemy in consistent pursuit of just someone running. And I'm just like, I hope they get away. Enemy takes them out. Just like one touch with persistent, because the person, guess what happened to the person? They didn't have the endurance to keep running from the enemy. The enemy is a lot more persistent than you think. So I'm telling you guys that to say this. What is your verses? What is stopping you from being united? What is stopping you? Like, I understand that the pathway looks narrow, and it's not a pathway that many take because many use the other route. But understand, going the other direction is exactly what the enemy wants you to do. He wants you to get wrapped up in your potential. He wants you to get wrapped up in your opinions. He wants you to get wrapped up in motivation. But God is calling you to inspire your brothers and sisters, not only in this room, but your actual family. He's calling you to be obedient, not only when you hear him talk to you, but to be obedient to your leaders and the people around you. And he's calling you towards your purpose. Like, how many of you guys want a inspired, obedient, and purpose-led life? Everyone in the room. And listen, it's not like I'm just saying this just to say this. Like, there's plenty of scripture to back it up. It's not like that's not apparent. So I want to leave you guys with this, and it's a prayer. And the prayer is like a deep thought prayer. So if you want me to send you the prayer or something like that, or if you want to get down the prayer, just like see me after service and we can talk about it. But the prayer goes like this. As you guys are thinking about what your verses are, like what is stopping you from living that obedient, inspired, and purposeful life, I want you guys to hear this. So I want everybody to bow their heads and close their eyes. I just want you to listen to this. I'm gonna run through this prayer, and then I'm gonna just pray a little bit more, and we're gonna get into worship while these guys set up. So I just want you to listen to this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as the pathway to peace. Talking as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is now, as it is not as I would have it, but trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next.